Hey there. So this video is the culmination of about 6 months worth of work, much of which occurred during obnoxious circumstances. I'd like to thank hard seltzer and melatonin for keeping me vaguely sane, although that's a very relative term. The dream of every Vanlifer is to have an off-grid AC system that keeps them cool without running their batteries down to nothing no matter what. And for years, we've been told that this is either entirely possible or entirely impossible. The arguments came down to either A, spending a whole bunch of money, or B, pulling off engineering feats that would guarantee you a job at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. So when I came across this OutEquipPro 12V unit, I thought to myself, this might be the solution to a problem that's vexed me for a long time. All I needed was a battery strong enough to run it, and since I'd been in the market for a bigger LifePo 4 for a minute, it seemed like a good move. I settled on a 12V, 280 amp hour Redodo self-heating battery with Bluetooth, and I thought to myself, okay, if the AC purchase doesn't work out, I'd either just return the unit, like I did this pointless EcoFlow thing, or I'd resell it. That said, if you love endless, needless complexity, you've come to the right place in terms of van life reviews. This thing drives me up a wall. If you want the long and short on should I buy this, go ahead and go to the end of the video. There's chapters and whatnot here. Because the thing about this van, it has all these inane issues which makes it incredibly hard to do basic stuff like add a fan, a 12V AC, or a light bar, which almost blew something up a few months ago, no joke. This is not an easy one-person install, by the way. So do yourself a favor and have an organ you can trade in to pay a friend cool enough to help you, or be the Incredible Hulk. But with that said, yeah, it got done. And what I'm going to do today is talk to you about some of the special factors that made this a pain in the backside for those of you with old school conversion vans like this E150. And then I'll talk about the good side of the unit, the bad side of the unit, and give you an overview and a wrap up. Spoiler alert, it's not the perfect unit, but much of that is due to the fact that this is not a perfect vehicle. Overall though, I've definitely been able to sit and work in this van and basically feel like I've got a cooling system that makes some degree of sense versus, hey, stay out of the van until 9 p.m., then run all of your fans and AC at full blast and maybe you can sleep 4 to 5 hours. Maybe. And I should mention that OutEquipPro is reimbursing me for the cost of this unit, which I purchased with my own funds, and whose install was delayed because of multiple floods and acts of God and a brand new job and oh my God, rodent infestation and former apartment and I hate life and everything in it. By the way, the auto dictation put that in full caps when I was writing the script, and I think it really did nail my emotional state. Like and subscribe. So first, some background. This is David RV. It's a Ford Econoline E150 conversion van. I had been hot in this beast. I live in the American South for most of the year, and when I saw the price of the OutEquipPro unit, I decided to move on it. However, this conversion van is a collection of some of the worst designs in automobile manufacturing history. Legitimately confusing choices like, hey, stick this screw right next to something that blocks its path so you can never access it. Or, oh, hey, install this weird tiered wood system in the ceiling so you have crappy plywood on top of crappy plywood that will burn if you fart in its direction, and so that you can never troubleshoot anything without a crowbar and a prayer. Or connect the dome lights to pressure sensors in the door so you can't turn them off independently. This is, of course, in addition to Ford's own hilarious decisions on the Econoline series. Good luck reaching your spark plugs, team. Also, there's this turtled nightmare of the roof. This terrible and pointless curve makes everything difficult from the outside and, on the interior, this stupid wood sandwich on the top part of it means you have to interact with not only one, but 2 big chunks of wood if you're trying to do any modifications. It's frustrating, to say the least. Because of the roof, the unit's actual flow corridor, that's a term I'm using instead of air pathway for some reason, wouldn't connect to the head unit directly. Did I mention I hate this roof? I used some foam I had around to build an extender, but I'm highly doubtful this thing is efficient as it could be in these circumstances. You'll note I couldn't get the screws in due to width issues, so I simply used long zip ties and installed the head unit on a foam base that I secured with VHB tape. When we installed the fan, we used a small fishplate system to distribute the stress so it didn't crack the fiberglass. After much deliberation on placement, we simply removed the fan to add in the AC unit. Do I miss that fan? Oh God, yes. But I spent more time removing the sealant for the fan unit than anything else. Well, minus the terrible air pathway adjustments. But if you're adding this to a conversion van, consider screwing in something like aluminum brackets to help distribute its weight more evenly. Hey, big point here though? Make no mistake. The biggest impact factor on this thing's efficiency was a lack of insulation. We'll come back to this, but for the most part, I know where my bread is buttered, I know where I live, I go where I go, and you can only keep whatever metal box you have in the sun cool for so long before it becomes obvious that you have a metal box in the sun. I'm basically running a really good fan system here. It keeps one area really cool and easy to work in while the rest of the van burns down in the sun. And even then, I'll be looking for shade at that time because I'm not messing with nature. So that gets us to the good stuff. First off, a massive shout out is due to the OutEquipPro people for their excellent customer service. We went back and forth multiple times and they were always on point in terms of getting a response to me and also gave me really useful information that was very helpful. Make no mistake, I did have questions about this and the instructions could be better, but when I sent them questions, I got answers and that was great. There's also a number of very solid install videos online that people have posted for this unit, and that was very helpful. It's especially true for people like me who've got older vans or weird vans. I can't tell you how many times somebody told me the solution to every problem is spend $85,000 on a used Sprinter. My response, in a word, no. Anyway, so on to the reason you're here, the big question. Does this thing fully cool down the van? i.e., make it like an icebox? No, it doesn't. But it does make it far, far less insufferable in 90-plus degree weather, especially if you're somebody who's found some shade. I've definitely sat in weird small-town mall parking garages with this, taking a nap while a heat wave popped off, and I've definitely cooled down the van more quickly than I would have otherwise. Power consumption on this thing is sweet, and made sweeter by the unit's various modes and features. Although if you're really hot, you'll want the turbo mode on. Just go for the gold. Why waste the time? But with the 280 amp hour battery, I've been able to run this for 8 to 12 hours, depending on the circumstances. Although if you keep turbo on all the time, it'll drain it pretty quickly. And yeah, the power draw escalates when the compressor goes into high gear, so keep that in mind. In general, as far as ease of use goes, I'm all in. The light in the head unit is also a nice touch. It's really nice to just turn on a light sometimes, even if you don't need the air. Additionally, the unit functions quite well in fan mode if you just need a breeze. It does not exhaust air for you max air fart masters out there, but it's really good for a strong flow while you rest in your camper. And last but not least, considering other options, budget-wise, this is by no means a horrible choice. Yeah, you're gonna have to add $300 to $500 for a suitable battery, but if you're serious enough to consider something like this for van camping, it's already crossed your mind. The bad. Installation was a massive, massive, massive pain in the backside. And in my case, we ended up backing it up to an outside fireplace, putting on knee pads, and just leaning over and getting it done. But the logistics challenge of getting it all together was nothing to sneeze at. Sometimes the directions were rather unclear or outright confusing, but to be blunt, this gasket is trash. Get your own gasket. Cutting it, trying to work with hard rubber and sealant, gutting a notch in it to run a cable through it, and then resealing it was just a massive pain. We had to weight it down, and even then it still felt like it was going to bend out of shape. This thing is still not properly sealed, by the way, so order up your own square gasket and save time. Another downside is that this thing causes a hellacious spark to jump every time you put it on the mains. I've been using ceramic resistors rated for a 2K watt inverter, but yeah, this thing is always on as far as taking a charge, so if anybody knows how to make it not spark to the point where I'm terrified, please let me know. Meanwhile, I'm working one-handed, wearing rubber gloves and glasses, and staying the hell away from this thing. No wonder I'm terrified about getting a DC-to-DC charger. Another downside? The beeping. Sheesh, I get it, okay? Every time I breathe near a button, this unit beeps. Definitely an annoyance. And it's not like this big-ass red van is going to be a poster child for stealth camping, but when you're out on a city street and you have to put up with a loud noise at 1 a.m. because it's hot out, yeah, you're hoping you don't get noticed. And being direct again, don't get the heater version of this AC. It's useless. It's pretty much the only God-no aspect of this thing, and it provides nothing of value to the equation. It just does nothing and it's a massive power draw. Another downside is that I'd rather get the Bluetooth control unit head that they had that I didn't find until well after I'd ordered this because it's kind of buried on the OutEquipPro website. I would have liked that a lot more than something that never heated anything and drew 600 plus watts in the process. Also, you may want to consider getting a 24 volt version if you're really savvy with the engineering. Back to the beginning, but remember I said the installation was a massive pain? Well, it's true that that was more on the van's design than on this unit, but after getting installed and working, I looked up and saw sunlight coming through it. I was bummed. I mean, I had to get up there and put more sealant on and spend hours to fix that, and honestly, it's still not what I want it to be. Now, that sounds like a lot of downside, but what's the overall word on this thing? All things considered, this unit's a really great budget option. OutEquipPro's customer service was great. They helped me with all my big questions, they went above and beyond to do so, and that's a giant plus. We even managed to make it work in a van that's just not designed for this, and it was pretty damn difficult to modify for anything. Yeah, we had some issues with instructions and some lack of clarity there, but the strong YouTube community really helped a lot. And to be very clear, unless you're Captain Powerlifter, you will need a second person to help you with this. In total, I'm still stoked about this purchase, which allowed me to sit in a van, do work, and feel comfortable without requiring a $4,000 to $5,000 battery bank, a solar system, and customized sets of fittings, in addition to reworking the interior. But honestly, for my particular purposes, it's not going to be the end-all be-all unit until I get installation in this beast. I've done things to mitigate how much space I'd have to cool down, like putting extra stuff in the van, building in some dead zones where air wouldn't flow. I've also vented it so it blows right on me, and blasting the van's AC before I post up has also been very helpful. So yeah, you could do worse. Look into it. Until next time. This is the stuff that we didn't take footage of because it's obnoxious.